So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started. I just want to say good afternoon and welcome to the Army Senior Leader Media Roundtable. I'm Colonel Nicole Downs, the Director of Army Materiel Command, Public and Congressional Affairs. With us today are, starting at the center, General James Rainey, Commanding General of Army Futures Command. To his right is Ms. Liz Miranda, Executive Deputy to the Commanding General. And at the other end of the table, we have Lieutenant General Robert Collins, the Principal Military Deputy to the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisitions, Logistics, and Technology. They can speak to the future concepts and technology acquisition and sustainment necessary for driving continuous transformation of ready combat forces. We have copies of their bios available if you don't have them already. We will begin with a brief opening statement, after which they will take your questions.
Well, good afternoon. So first, welcome to Huntsville. Welcome to what we call home. I just recently moved about 6 months ago, and I'm getting to learn and see the great things that Huntsville has to offer. So I think it's a great venue to host AUSA Global Force. So welcome to all of you. And as Tommy Battle said this morning, right, take the opportunity to explore Huntsville while you're here. I'm getting to know the good restaurants and the good places to visit myself. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy your stay here. So this year's theme for AUSA Global Force, as we know, is continuous transformation to deliver ready combat formations. And when we look at the operating environment that we know we're going to be facing now and into the future, we need to make the necessary changes so that our soldiers have what they need to fight and win. And we need to do that very rapidly, right, at the pace of war. So the team here, and who you see here at the front table, from concepts to acquisition to sustainment, right, we really have a great team that brings those capabilities and ensure soldiers have what they need and that they can operate and sustain it once fielded to them. So it really is a joint effort. We really have a great team that ensures that we do that based on the expectations, right, and the need of our Army. And industry and academia play a huge role in that as well. And why we really like to have these type of forums is to bring all those capabilities that we know exist today that we can leverage once again to provide the capabilities that the soldiers need. And we also want to thank AUSA for bringing us together so that we can have these conversations. And without further ado, we really want to open the floor for any questions. You probably have participated in some of the conversations that have occurred throughout the day today and tomorrow and Thursday, but we're here to answer any questions you may have. So I'll open it up. We're all yours now.
You can go ahead down here, sir.
Hi, Matt Baynard, Defense Daily. I wanted to ask, at last week's MACLES conference, Lieutenant General Gingrich mentioned that the CR is not expected to have a dramatic impact on transformation and contact efforts. And this morning we heard from the acting under that the Army is kind of systematically reviewing legacy programming requirements and hopes to use freed up resources for transformation efforts. So is there a sort of a financial pressure on the ability to fully fund TIC priorities? And do you anticipate a sort of night court-like effort in order to fully get after that effort?
Well, thanks, it's a great question. So there's a lot of unfinished, it's too early to say, so there's been a lot of stuff in the press. Everybody understands. So I'm not sure where the money's gonna land. Of the money the Army gets, the chief and the secretary's commitment to the soldiers and families is, absolute. We have a moral responsibility to make sure that any man or woman we ask to go into combat are ready. We don't accept risk on readiness. So both General Pappas, who trains the humans and formations, and General Mohan is accountable for making sure our combat systems are ready. And then you get to the money that we put against transformation. I think there'll be enough. I would say that the chief's prioritization of transforming in contract, there's gonna be money for that. I think we face some hard decisions about how much legacy and enduring capability we continue to pay for at the expense of transformation. I don't want to speak for the chief or secretary, but they see that pretty clearly that we absolutely have to fund transformation. So, I would never say we have enough money. I think that the money we have will translate into a sense of urgency about transformation.
And then just a quick follow-up on that, but we've heard a lot about the the push for flexible funding authority to get after the initial 3 buckets, drones, counter drones, EW, as it relates to TIC. If you are granted that authority, can move out on it, does that alleviate a little bit some of that pressure, knowing?
Absolutely. In fact, I'd say it the other way, that money without the ability to move it, whatever money there is, the ability to move it around is as important as the amount of money. So the way technology is evolving, we can't get into vendor lock, program of record stuff, and I'll defer to Rob, who's the expert at it, but we can't have 17 UAV programs with their own funding line. We need to be able to move money from UAVs when there's a breakthrough in one size from the other. But, Congress exercises oversight and control, and we take it very seriously. In fact, we're spending a lot of taxpayer money, so the accountability mechanisms that Congress establishes and demands will be fully compliant with those. But we absolutely got to be able to move money.
And I
was just going to add just a comment too, just to put it down and underscore there. I think absolutely are thankful to continue that resourcing effort that we've got. Some flexibilities within there that we've got, and as we continue to work through, I think absolutely we're focused on war-winning capability, right? Things that are meaningful, effective, and able to be lethal. We talk a lot about lethality, speed, the ability to scale, and then driving down costs. And I would just say that those flexibilities, as we look at how we take, do things smartly within light items and have that flexibility, there's an inherent efficiency that's within that, and allows us to be able to pivot within the year of execution, because the threat and the technology is evolving at a rapid pace, and so we can do that much more quickly, much more efficiently. So it's really beneficial.
I'm just gonna move down this road right here, so I'll go to Jen next, and then Ashley, and then Dan.
All right, can you hear me? All right.
You should.
Okay, I'm just gonna shout. Could you, General Collins, provide an update on where the Army is in ramping up 155mm production at this point?
So I think, talking about, using opportunities, I think we've learned a number of lessons from, speaking broadly, a lot of operations that have gone across the globe. I think Ukraine is one. And specifically, I think, to our industrial base. And I think that industrial base is not just organic, it's not just defense, it's across others. And that last element, third element I mentioned of kind of the scale piece. I think specifically to 155, we continue on our ramp to make sure that we're able to be able to produce those at scale. I think we're on the glide path for the targets that we want to meet by 100,000 in the 26 timeframe. I think we've also learned a number of lessons on raw materials, the ability to produce. When you start talking technology, not just for warfighting capabilities, but on production capacity, multifunctional lines, the ability to employ artificial intelligence and autonomy, things that can do not just one particular item, but it can do a multitude of items. I think we've learned things where it can augment the skill force to be able to do that. So I think there are a lot of areas that have been very helpful in that particular agreement.
Can you say what the current rate of production is?
I think the current rate is around 40,000 rounds per month that we're doing, both in metal parts and low assembly pack.
And on the new facility in Mesquite, Texas, have they started production there?
Yep, they've started, so they've got the lines set up. They're going through all the first article testing to make sure we got all the quality control from the metal parts piece. So, and I think that is one of the areas that, as I talked about, that has a lot of inherent things that we can do without the physical, touch labor. There are things that we can do that allow us to go much faster than we start to increase.
But you have started to produce shells?
They're finishing up the testing and starting to
Okay, so
produce metal projectiles on the line.
when do you expect the first bodies?
So we've already had some of the bodies that have started to come off the line and start to go through X-ray, with some
Okay.
testing, be able to assess that, just to make sure they meet all of our quality standards.
We're gonna go ahead and move to Ashley.
Hi, for General Collins first, could you walk us through sort of the IVAS plan right now? You've been moving out with the IVAS Next or the soldier board sensor, but how does that sort of fit into 1.1 and 1.2? And are you buying, could you just walk us through how this all comes together?
Yeah, so, and I'll maybe, start off and any augmentation for my teammates, but, one of the things that we want to do from a situational awareness perspective, depending on where you're at in the battlefield, making sure that you've got that ability, to own the night and to be able to see, whether you're, in post-combat force or if you're in multiple echelons. And I think IVAS is one particular area of situational awareness that allows us much more than just the ability to see, in limited light in other areas. We do tremendous amounts of collaboration to be able to facilitate rehearsals. You've recently seen, at least between some of the vendors, looking at how, they made transition and part of the innovation, I think, in the news. And I think one of the areas that we're looking at is how to continue that model. And part of the things that we talked about here too is just making sure that we've got, an open architecture so that as we have capabilities that we may be able to enhance as part of that capability that we can rapidly insert based on threat, based on technology, and other initiatives. So, as we continue that effort, I'd say that's probably one of the big things.
So are you actually did you buy the 1.1? Are you buying 1.2? And or are you waiting for the SPU?
So there have been elements that we bought of the IVAS capability. I'd say we're using those from a testing and a prototyping, from an experimentation process. We're using those in some of our training environments so that we can learn and we can continue to get feedback so that we go through that process.
So not a mass buy of this initial IVAS version? Not currently. Just 100% clear, 1.2 not a mass buy.
So right now we're continuing in the prototype and we're learning. We're continuing to iterate is how we look to make sure that we've got the requirement about right.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move to Dan really quickly, and just for the purposes of time, could we just do one question with one follow-up? Because I wanna make sure I also get to the journalists on this side of the room, and then we have Ms. Meredith on the phone as well.
Hi, thanks for doing this. I wanted to go back to the TIC funding I know it's been mentioned that it'll be funded through replenishment tranches. Can you just sort of explain how that works? Is that essentially the same as a reprogramming within the budget, or is it sort of going back to the concept of agile funding, or like how will that work within the CR or the FY26 budget?
One more time.
Just asking how the replenishment tranche funding will work. I mean, is that the same thing as a reprogramming essentially?
I would say it's not essentially as a reprogramming. I think what it is as we've been able to do the presidential drawdown capability, one of the things we've been able to do is as we've drawn down capability, we've been able to replace it with new capability. So I would say there are areas like the 113, we've been able to displace those and be able to buy back AMV. I would say Humvee legacy capability that we don't want to buy, we've been able to buy back infantry squad vehicle. So I think we've been able to use that as an opportunity to be able to, help and draw down and provide capability, but we've been also been able to, buy newer capability that's able to enhance and inform and actually be part of some of our transformation and contact units.
Thanks. And then, General Rainey, a question for you. Last week you talked about how the Army needs to acquire systems that are exquisite and acquire systems that are cheap and mass, but not necessarily the 80% in the middle. Can you sort of expand on some of the systems that fall into the exquisite and the cheap and mass category that the Army ought to go after?
Yeah. And just for everybody, there's a place for exquisite, expensive capability in the United States Joint Force. We have a huge tech advantage, but if it's expensive, it needs to be exquisite. If it's not, it needs to be cheap, mass, and things in the middle, are not real desirable for us. So yeah, great question over there, Ken. 155 HE, $5,000 a round. Number one killer on the battlefield, indisputably. Ukraine, Russia, 152, 155. That's good. That makes a lot of sense to me. The examples on the other end, Patriot, exquisite, Tomahawk, exquisite, incredibly capable. Prism looks like it's going to be exquisite, and it's expensive. But at the same time, there's potential for low-cost rocket, mass-produced, at a lower price point. We have some of the UAV programs we have right now are incredibly expensive, and they're losing their exquisiteness over time. There's companies that are coming in with something that's less capable that I can buy 100 of on the price point of one exquisite. So that's what I meant as examples.
Sure. Just to follow up quickly, I know you've talked about before needing to acquire more low-cost mass rockets. I mean, what is sort of the Army's plan to do that? Or, how will they get industry involved over the next few years in that?
Well, we don't have a few years. I mean, this is like now. So we have urgent requirement documents where we're asking companies to mass produce. So in the thousands, fires, capabilities, counter UAS capabilities that are at a really low price point. 30 millimeter products, ammo, for example. You may have to shoot 30 of them and a couple of UAVs, but that's a pretty good cost per kill as a final defense. They're not expensive. Direct fire systems, so think about if you're familiar with the rocket pods we had for Gimbals, I would like to fill those rocket pods with 50 or 100 rockets. So the form factor is an existing thing we have. We already have the platform. We already have most important thing is the humans, the great men and women, main sailors, the leaders who know how to fight it. What could we put in that box? It's not as good as the gamblers, but it can visit a lot of hate on the enemy in the right conditions. So that kind of stuff, and we are engaging in the industry right now. Not just the people that make rockets, but people that do things like are trying to disrupt the manufacturing. There's companies that are coming to us and saying, if you give us something, we can mass produce it in a way that is different. The energetics, the replacement for rocket motors, the additive manufacturing, 3D printing, how do we bring all that to bear in low cost mass? I think there's a lot of opportunities. We need a low cost training UAV right now. Something that we can give to our units that they can use during training, whether it's shooting tank and Bradley gunnery or out doing platoon live fire. They can replicate what we know is going to happen next time we go to war. But if we want to fly a UAV at ourselves for training value, like $200 a copy, would be interesting. Right? I don't need to have Chinese birds. I don't need to have world-class cameras. I need them to fly so I can shoot it down. Somebody should jump on that. That would be really useful for us. So those are a few examples.
We're gonna move
We
to this.
can't buy robots like tanks and Bradleys. I don't need expensive, exquisite robots whose whole purpose is to go get blown up instead of the exquisite, expensive M1. I got a little bit of passion about this, as you can tell. I could go on for 30 more minutes, but I'll shut up. I'm interested to hear from our teammates over here.
I'm gonna go ahead and let Ken ask this question.
Thank you, Ken Kreitzer, Cam Vets Media. Thank you all for your service to our country. John, last year we talked a little bit about how much the Army uses the Space Force, partners with them, satellites. I was in a discussion last week, actually the NATO expert, who talked about threats against by adversaries below the level of a war. I was curious about on satellites if there's a significant threat from cyber attacks that could be disruptive.
Certainly, yeah. Space is much a part of the future of war as land and maritime is, and cyber is both offensive, us having offensive cyber capabilities and protecting against everything from state actors to criminals. So, yes.
Thank you.
And the U.S. is very, very good at it. I would put our cyber forces and capabilities and our exquisiteness in space in the strengths of the United States category. We got work to do. Never want to get lazy or not get better, but we're very good as a joint force in those two areas.
Thank you.
With that, now we're gonna go to the phone where we have Ms. Meredith Rotan on the phone. So, James Defense.
I wanted to ask about something that was said in the experimentation fireside chat this morning about 3-4 capabilities from PCC4 that went to the KIT 2.0 brigades or are going. Can you tell me which ones those are, and also if you're trying to continue that trend for PCC5?
Hey, this is Joe Rainey. I'd love to follow up with you on when we have more time on a more detailed, lay down. So, for OPSEC reasons, I don't want to be real specific, but out of Project Convergence 4 on Next Gen C2 and C2 Fix capabilities, UAV capabilities, robotics capabilities, medical capabilities, and one offensive fires capability we looked at PC4 a year ago and said get to the tick brigades fast. PC5, we're actually not even done with PC5. We just wrapped up Part A. It was unbelievably successful. I'm not saying that because I'm the AFC commander. I mean, it's the partnership between industry and the Army, not AFC. It's AFC, it's TRADOC, AMC. We couldn't do it without the ForceCom units. We're doing Part B out in NOPACOM, actually in the AOR, thanks to the support of the senior leadership out there. So closing the time it takes for soldiers to iterate on something with partners is really working out well. So there'll be numerous capabilities to include the fact that we validated Next Gen C2 during PC5 is going to result in our ability to go faster there. So those are some examples, and we're planning PC 6, 7, and 8 right now. We've got forces aligned against them. We have experimental objectives, so the industry's ability to come with us on this journey is getting better and better every iteration we do. It's equating to increased speed of actually putting these capabilities in the formations, which is really the only thing that matters.
And if I could just double down on that relationship too, I would tell you that on the ability to have experimentation and the transformation in contact, to have that continuous feedback, to be able to put it out there, see it how it works in the environment, understanding the doctrine, the organizational, all those aspects. I think you heard earlier about some informing of the requirements process. That is dramatically accelerating not only the ability to move quickly, but to make sure that we're doing things right and we're buying the right things that are war-winning capabilities. So I think that collective synergy that we have going on is making a tremendous success as we think about how we want to move faster and focus on the right things for lethality.
Meredith, were you able to hear the responses?
Thank you.
Okay. So we have time for one more question, if there is one. If there isn't,
I just have a follow-up. So I went back and looked at an old story of mine from around last fall, and I think the goal was to get to 55,000 shells a month by the end of the year. So we're still at 40. Where are we in this, or would you consider us maybe slipping a little bit in terms of being able to ramp up and actually reach your goal of 100,000 in 26? We didn't hit 55 by the end of the year.
Yeah, so what I would say is we're continuing the ramp. We're going to hit that in-state target. And as you look for the 155 aspects, whether it's another the metal projectile, whether it's propellant, the energetic, getting all that from the load assembly pack. So I think all of those efforts, as we're putting those together, still making sure that we hit that ramp, as we hit that initial in-state. So we're still progressing along those fronts, pulling all that together. And I think as Rainey mentioned too, there's a lot of good insights that we've got for this as we start to send. One of the things I think too on the munitions front is sending that demand signal, right, for predictability and stability, for not just what we're doing today, but some of those longer range position or munitions, so that we now start to see some new entrants coming into the market too, really to kind of bring that on. So I think there's a lot of goodness that's going on collectively across the community as we do 155 and we start to look at longer range precision fires.
Do you have any reason to believe the 100,000 benchmark by 26 is something that may not happen because it will no longer necessarily be the desire, or has there been any discussion about potentially not needing to get to that?
Yeah, certainly predicting in the future, but I think, as we maintain on that ramp, and then I think you also have opportunities for foreign military sales. You start to hit, looking at other things that we can be able to do as we start to ramp that capability up. So I think we're looking at all of those options too, because, one of the things that we do is we produce these 155 rounds. We've got a lot of foreign military sale customers that are very interested in that, using that, as well as making sure that we got capacity for our forces too as well. So certainly something that we're focused on.
I see that we have 2 more people who have questions, but I do have to be respectful of our leaders' times. So with that being said, this concludes the Army Senior Leader Roundtable. Thank you to General Rainey, Ms. Miranda, and Lieutenant General Collins for your participation. And thank you to AUSA for helping organize this. Enjoy the rest of your time at Global Force.